Squinted eyes and a low, cutting voice, the man who turned "Go ahead, make my day" into a national mantra has never been someone you'd call approachable, on screen or off. For more than 6 decades, Clint Eastwood has commanded Hollywood with a quiet but unshakable authority. And behind that cool, unbothered exterior lies a list of grudges that even Dirty Harry would raise an eyebrow at. Newly surfaced insider accounts reveal that Eastwood kept a secret blacklist, a personal catalog of actors who committed the ultimate offense in his world, wasting his time. Known for his one-take shooting style and whisper-quiet sets, Eastwood had zero patience for performers who disrupted his rhythm or slowed his momentum. And the reasons behind these grudges may forever change how you view some of Hollywood's biggest names. Today, we break down the 5 actors who pushed one of cinema's most efficient directors to his limit, and why crossing Clint Eastwood means a career-long ban. From Dirty Harry to Unforgiven, from Million Dollar Baby to American Sniper, Eastwood built an empire on a simple code: show up prepared. Act truthfully. Trust the first take. His sets run with the precision of a clock. No chaos, no drama, no do-overs. Clint never argues, a longtime assistant director revealed. If you break his rules, he just never calls you again. So who made it onto Eastwood's infamous blacklist? These are the Hollywood icons who learned the hard way that in Clint's world, efficiency isn't optional, it's law. Number 2. Richard Burton. The second name on the list is a name that may surprise fans of classic cinema. Richard Burton. He and Eastwood co-starred in the 1968 World War II action classic Where Eagles Dare, a film that became a commercial hit and a TV staple. But behind the camera, the experience left Eastwood with a permanent reluctance to ever work with Burton again. According to those who witnessed the production, the clash came from their completely opposite approaches to the craft. Even then, Eastwood was known for discipline, punctuality, and minimal takes. Burton, however, was in the midst of his turbulent relationship with Elizabeth Taylor and brought that storm straight onto the set. The contrast in energy was so stark that Eastwood quietly marked Burton as someone he would never collaborate with again. Richard would show up late, hungover, and some days still drunk from the night before, recalled a camera operator from the set. Meanwhile, Clint had been there since sunrise, fully prepared. Eastwood would simply stand by, silently watching Burton stumble through lines he clearly hadn't even glanced at. You could practically see Clint's patience evaporating. The tension finally peaked during a crucial scene where Burton delivers a long monologue explaining the true nature of the mission. Multiple crew members confirmed that Burton needed over 20 takes, a complete violation of Eastwood's one-and-done philosophy. After the 10th take, Clint stepped aside and just watched, a production assistant remembered. He didn't yell or complain. He just stared at Burton fumbling through dialogue that Clint himself had memorized before breakfast. When someone asked if he was frustrated, Eastwood shrugged and said, "I'm paid by the picture, not by the hour." But everyone on set understood, he was furious beneath the calm. What truly sealed Burton's fate wasn't just the lack of readiness. It was what Eastwood saw as a deeper insult, a disregard for the work itself. Burton, renowned for his Shakespearean background, occasionally mocked the production, referring to Where Eagles Dare as just a paycheck within earshot of the crew. For Eastwood, a man who treats every role with unwavering seriousness no matter the genre, that attitude was unforgivable. Years later, when someone asked Eastwood about Burton, he delivered a typically clipped response: "Talented guy. Wasted talent." Those 3 words said everything about how he viewed Burton, both as an actor and a colleague. Number 3. Tommy Lee Jones. The third figure on Eastwood's blacklist reflects a collision between 2 powerful, uncompromising personalities. Tommy Lee Jones, Eastwood's co-star in the 1993 thriller In the Line of Fire. Although the film was both a critical and box office success, working with Jones reportedly convinced Eastwood that there would never be a second collaboration. On paper, the pairing seemed ideal: 2 actors known for their intensity, minimalism, and no-nonsense approach. But in reality, their similarities fueled conflict instead of chemistry. Multiple production insiders claimed the trouble began when Eastwood sensed that Jones was trying to dominate scenes and pull focus away from others. For a director who values balance, teamwork, and efficiency, this became a major point of friction. In Eastwood's world, there's one unforgivable offense: disrupting the flow of collaboration. Clint believes great acting happens when performers truly listen to each other, explained in the line of Fire director Wolfgang Peterson. Tommy, on the other hand, has such a powerful presence that he naturally pulls attention toward himself. Their conflicting styles created an undercurrent of tension, subtle but unmistakable, though both men remained professional enough to keep it from derailing the production. The strain intensified during their on-screen confrontations. According to several crew members, Jones often stayed in his character's hostile mindset even after Peterson called cut, carrying that aggressive energy straight into the downtime between takes. For Eastwood, who draws a sharp boundary between acting and real life, this method-style intensity felt unnecessarily confrontational. There was one scene where Tommy's character tears into Clint's Secret Service agent, recalled a sound technician. Peterson yelled, "Cut," but Tommy kept glaring at Clint, still fully in character. Clint just stared back for a second, then quietly walked off. Later, I heard him mutter to his assistant, "Life's too short for that bullshit." What ultimately placed Jones on Eastwood's Never Again list was a dispute over how a key scene should play out. Both actors had different interpretations of the moment. Eastwood deferred to the director without argument, but Jones continued pushing for his preferred version through multiple takes, directly clashing with Eastwood's first take is best take philosophy. After In the Line of Fire, Eastwood had several opportunities to cast Jones in projects he directed, roles perfectly aligned with Jones's intensity and gravitas. Yet every time his casting team suggested Jones, Eastwood would simply shake his head and respond, "Let's look at other options." When asked years later about working with Jones again, either acting beside him or directing him, Eastwood offered a typically concise answer: "Tommy's got his way of working. I've got mine. Sometimes different approaches should stay different." The diplomatic tone couldn't hide the finality behind it. Number 1. Jean Seberg. The first name on Eastwood's blacklist was an actress whose eventful life ended in tragedy. Jean Seberg, his co-star in the 1969 musical Paint Your Wagon. Though Seberg is better known for her iconic performance in Jean-Luc Godard's Breathless and the devastating FBI harassment she endured because of her activism, her brief professional encounter with Eastwood left a sour mark. Paint Your Wagon was already an unusual project for Eastwood, a large-scale musical that required him to sing on camera. Far outside his comfort zone, the experience became even more stressful because of what he viewed as Seberg's unpredictable and unprofessional behavior. According to several members of the production, Seberg was battling personal turmoil that bled into her work. She often arrived late, seemed disengaged during rehearsals, and struggled with even simple blocking and choreography. For a director who values efficiency above all else, these issues made the production far more painful than it needed to be, and secured Seberg a permanent spot on his no-return list. For someone as precise and steady as Eastwood, Jean Seberg's unpredictability was maddening. Clint approached the singing and choreography the same way he approached everything, methodically and with total focus, shared a choreographer from the film. Jean, though, she seemed somewhere else entirely. Clint would be standing on set, ready to begin, while she was dealing with some emotional crisis inside her trailer. The contrast between their working styles couldn't have been sharper. Things came to a boiling point when they filmed their romantic scenes. Crew members recalled that Seberg's emotional instability turned simple moments into multi-take nightmares, exactly the kind of inefficiency Eastwood despised. Even worse, Seberg would sometimes stop mid-scene to question the script or suggest new directions for her character, something Eastwood found both disrespectful and disruptive. He firmly believed the script existed to be honored, not reinvented on the spot. There was this scene where they just had to walk together and have a basic conversation, a script supervisor recounted. Clint knew his lines perfectly, but Jean kept pausing halfway through to ask about motivation or meaning. After the fifth interruption, Clint simply walked off. 10 minutes later, he came back and said, "Let's just get this done." That was as close as Clint ever got to losing his cool. What ultimately landed Seberg on Eastwood's blacklist wasn't only her behavior during production, it was what happened after. When Paint Your Wagon underperformed, Seberg gave interviews suggesting that Eastwood's stiff acting and limited musical range contributed to the film's failure. For the intensely private Eastwood, that public criticism crossed a line he never forgot. Though he never attacked Seberg publicly, especially after her tragic death in 1979, those who knew Eastwood said he would immediately shut down any conversation involving Paint Your Wagon or Seberg's name. One longtime friend recalled Eastwood summarizing his feelings in a single sentence: "Some people aren't built for this work. It's not their fault, but it's not something I need to deal with twice." Number 4. Leonardo DiCaprio taking the second spot on Eastwood's blacklist is a performer widely praised for his dedication and emotional depth. Leonardo DiCaprio, star of Eastwood's 2011 biopic J. Edgar. Despite DiCaprio's reputation as one of the finest actors of his generation, directing him reportedly stretched Eastwood's patience to the breaking point, enough that he quietly decided the collaboration would be a one-time event. The core of the conflict came down to a fundamental mismatch in how the two men make movies. Eastwood directs with razor-sharp efficiency, few takes, minimal instruction, and a preference for capturing whatever truth appears in the moment. DiCaprio, by contrast, built his career on deep research, emotional excavation, and experimenting with multiple takes to unlock layers of a performance. It was like watching two completely different filmmaking dialects trying to translate each other, said a script supervisor from J. Edgar. Leo wanted to dive into motivation, psychology, historical nuance. He had binders of notes and questions for every scene. Clint just wanted him to deliver the lines honestly and keep the momentum going. Neither approach was wrong, they just didn't fit together. Their opposing methods became glaringly obvious during the heavier emotional sequences. Sources from the set recalled DiCaprio repeatedly asking for extra takes to explore different tonal variations, a normal request for actors of his caliber, but one that clashed violently with Eastwood's first thought, best thought mantra. There was this huge emotional breakdown scene, a camera operator remembered. Leo crushed it on the first take, absolutely perfect. Then he asked for another, and another. By the sixth take, Clint had wandered away from the monitor and was standing by the craft service table with a cup of coffee, just waiting for the whole thing to wrap up. You could see him getting more and more annoyed. What cemented DiCaprio's high placement on Eastwood's internal blacklist wasn't just the methodical process. It was what Eastwood interpreted as a lack of confidence in his direction. For a filmmaker who believes that authenticity comes from trusting instincts and capturing raw, immediate emotion, DiCaprio's reliance on multiple takes felt like a quiet dismissal of Eastwood's entire philosophy. Clint thinks the first take carries a certain magic that fades the more you repeat it, explained a longtime assistant director from Eastwood's team. So when an actor keeps pushing for more takes, Clint reads that as them saying, "I don't think you got it." After decades of directing at the highest level, that's not something he takes lightly. Despite the underlying friction, both men remained thoroughly professional throughout production. DiCaprio delivered a dedicated, nuanced performance, one many critics cited as the highlight of J. Edgar. And Eastwood never openly criticized DiCaprio's process on set. Still, when filming wrapped, those close to Eastwood said he seemed drained in a way they had never witnessed before. "I'll never forget what he said at the end," recalled one of the film's producers. "He let out this long breath and said, 'Some people want to climb the mountain. Others want to measure the mountain, analyze the mountain, write poetry about the mountain. Me, I just want to reach the top and enjoy the view.'" It was obvious he was comparing Leo's deeply analytical style with his own stripped-down, instinct-driven approach. When Eastwood moved on to casting new projects, DiCaprio's name never resurfaced, even for roles that would have aligned perfectly with his abilities. Casting directors who have worked with Eastwood said his response was always the same: "Great actor. Just not my kind of actor." Those few words quietly shut the door on any possibility of future collaboration. This belief explains why Eastwood's blacklist includes some of the most celebrated artists in Hollywood. These aren't actors who delivered bad performances. They're actors whose process clashed directly with Eastwood's devotion to spontaneity and momentum. His intensity toward these differences became especially clear during casting for his films in the 2000s and 2010s. Multiple insiders from those productions recall Eastwood giving explicit instructions to avoid hiring actors known for heavy method work, excessive rehearsals, or demanding multiple takes, no matter how talented they were. "There was this unwritten rule," said a casting director who served on several Eastwood projects. "Regardless of how ideal an actor looked on paper, anyone known for a slow, process-heavy method was automatically ruled out." Eastwood would consistently choose a lesser-known performer who could deliver truthfully in a single take over a major star who needed 10 tries to get it right. What stands out most is how Eastwood manages these conflicts. He keeps his personal judgments private while remaining impeccably professional in public. In interviews, he almost never criticizes anyone by name. Even actors he's quietly sworn never to collaborate with again are spoken of in polite, measured tones. This restraint is part of his old-school Hollywood demeanor, something that often sets him apart from more openly emotional contemporary filmmakers. Meryl Streep, who worked closely with Eastwood on the bridges of Madison County and continues to speak warmly of him, once explained his approach this way: "Clint creates this environment of calm precision that's actually incredibly liberating if you trust it. But you have to take that leap. You have to believe your first instinct is usually the best one." Not every actor works comfortably within that philosophy, and Eastwood has limited patience for those who don't. Michael Madsen's recent passing made any potential reconciliation with Quentin Tarantino impossible. According to someone close to Tarantino, he took the loss hard, saying, "Whatever our issues were, he was part of my cinematic family. I always assumed we'd get one more chance together." Despite his reputation for holding grudges, those near Eastwood insist his decisions are grounded in artistic principles, not personal resentment. He still respects DiCaprio's ability and Burton's classical training, even as he remains firm in his belief that their methods simply clash with his own. "It's not about whether Clint likes someone," explained a producer who has worked with him on several films. "It's about protecting what he believes is the purity of filmmaking." He spent decades shaping his approach, instinctive, efficient, built on capturing honest moments. Anyone who disrupts that, no matter how gifted, isn't coming back. This devotion to his process has only deepened as Eastwood has grown older. Now in his 90s and still directing, he has become even more selective about who he brings onto his sets. He prefers to work with a tight circle of performers who fully understand and appreciate his lean, minimalist style. Hilary Swank, who won an Oscar under Eastwood's direction in $1 Million Baby, explained why so many actors thrive under his method. "There's something incredibly alive about knowing you only get 1 or 2 takes. You're sharper, more present. But it means you have to trust yourself, and trust him completely." The revelation of Eastwood's private list has stirred quiet conversation across Hollywood. Actors have begun honestly assessing whether their style fits his famously streamlined approach. This has created a kind of self-filtering effect. Performers who rely on heavy preparation or numerous takes simply avoid auditioning for Eastwood, knowing the mismatch would be obvious. Gene Hackman, who collaborated with Eastwood on Unforgiven before stepping away from acting, perhaps summed it up best: "Clint expects you to arrive prepared, be truthful, and trust that he'll capture what matters. If you can do that, you'll have a terrific experience. If you can't, it's better for both of you not to work together." In the end, Eastwood's list says as much about his commitment to his craft as it does about the actors who clashed with him. It reflects a filmmaker who knows exactly how he works best, and refuses to compromise those conditions, even for Hollywood royalty. And that, ultimately, is the heart of Clint Eastwood's secret list of the 5 actors he struggled with most. From DiCaprio's hyperanalytical method to Burton's underpreparedness, from Jones's intensity to Seaborn's volatility, and finally Streisand's perfectionism, each name highlights the same core truth. Eastwood prioritizes instinct, authenticity, and efficiency above everything else in his collaborators. What makes this story compelling isn't just the behind-the-scenes drama, though there's plenty of that, but what it reveals